Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the SEO Growth Podcast. It's been a long time since I've recorded. I haven't recorded since, what year is it? 2023, so 2022. So it's been a while. Happy to be back in the studio. And today I have Julian Schaaf, and we are talking about how Gomada grew from 0 to 300 signups from organic in under a year. We were just chatting about the startup life and trying different things here and there. So we're right in the middle of it. How's it going, Julian?
It's going well. I'm a little nervous, but I'm happy because you nailed my last name. So that's a really good start.
When I was saying it, I was actually like, oh shit, I forgot to ask him.
I also thought, oh shit, what's going to happen here? You got it right.
It came out okay. Lucky guess. I'm super excited to have you here today and talk about this topic, how you're growing organically, because everybody's trying different ways. Love to hear what's working for some people and also, what didn't work for you. You had a lot of trial and error. So let's dive into it. But before we get into it, can you just tell me a little bit about your background at Gomada and in your career? And, why did you decide to use SEO as a channel?
Sure. I'll try to keep my intro short. So I'm head of marketing at Gomada. We do team building for remote teams. We try to not do it in that cringy, trustful way that some people might be thinking of now, but we're trying to measure what teams actually need and then give them activities that help them improve what they need most. That's the basic idea behind Gomada. I spent about 6 years in B2B marketing now, so it's not super long, I guess, but 3 of those years at Gorilla76, who you also know, marketing agency for B2B companies. And then I transitioned into the software world, which I enjoy a lot more. There's a lot more marketing innovation going on. So yeah, that's my background. Now we've been building Gomada for about a year. Before that, we were working on another product, also SaaS, and then decided to make a switch into the remote team building space. And yeah, we've been at it for about a year now. So it's a good check-in, I guess, now to talk about what's been working and what hasn't been. There's a lot of both, I think.
Yeah, because when you joined, there was no marketing yet?
There was nothing. There was no product. We just decided, okay, we're going to make a new product, and it's completely different. So we started with a new domain, new product. We had no idea what the solution was going to look like. Honestly, we didn't really know. We had some ideas for everything, but everything was new. So, yeah, I think your second question was, why did we decide to go the SEO route?
Yeah, why search right from the beginning?
Yeah, I actually didn't think we were going to right in the beginning, but then a few different things happened. We decided to go for a product-led approach for a product, and we could, in theory, be used by pretty much any remote team that speaks English. So it's a really big audience. That's very different from when I was working with B2B manufacturers. They have a very specific target audience, like, I don't know, project engineers in Ohio. If that were the case, I probably wouldn't have started with search. And also, we're not really your enterprise software with 50K ACV. It's more like 500 to 1,000 maybe. And if you look at Google, there's just a huge opportunity when it comes to team building. Like one of our competitors, they're really the biggest player, teambuilding.com. They get over 1 million monthly searches. Yeah, I'm just looking at Ahrefs data. So teambuilding.com, if you're listening, please correct me. So that's just one company, like 1 million searches a month about team building. And I think we can do it differently and maybe a little better than some of our competitors out there. So we wanted to have a slice of that cake. And even if we just get a little slice, that's enough for us to get started.
So you were looking at the total addressable market for competitors, and then you said, well, there is a huge market here on search, so this is the actual business strategy for growth.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an exact science, but yeah, that's what it came down to. We wanted to have something that's efficient, because I can't go spending a ton of money on ads with that ACV. There's just a very slim, really slim margin of error that I have. And we also didn't really have a super good idea of who our target audience would even be. So there are a lot of reasons for us to use search. It's like we kind of wanted to cast a wide net to find out who's going to use this product and how. And that's exactly what it's done. And then something that it all kind of came together. I think in the same months, I started finding out about content distribution, which is a company / website run by Nick and Gordana. You can check them out on LinkedIn. Yeah. And I started reading about their stuff, and I'm like, this guy's full of shit. And then it turns out he's been doing this for a while, and he's been doing this approach for a lot of companies, which they talk about a lot of things, but the main thing they talk about is content velocity, so publishing a lot of high quality content. And then I saw other people starting to talk about it, like Steve Toth, who used to work with FreshBooks, I think, and he now runs SEO Notebook. And all these things came together, and I was like, this is kind of exactly what we need to do. And so we just said, okay, let's try it for 3 months. So we didn't go all in. We just said, let's try it for 3 months and see what happens. So that's how it got started, and then it worked well, so we kept doing it.
What were you hoping to see within 3 months? Because that's, you're not going to get full ROI within that time, but you're going to see some indicators that it is going toward. Did you set milestones in advance, or just kind of waiting to see what comes in?
We just wanted to see. We put some numbers in, but in 3 months, I think what we wanted to do in 3 months, we didn't set a goal for any kind of signups or customers or growth. We just set a goal for how much we want to publish. Okay. Which some people might think is silly, but that's the only thing we felt confident enough in to set a goal for it. We're like, okay, if we publish 50 pieces in the next 3 months, which sounded crazy at the time, then let's just see what happens if we do that. It sounds crazy, but let's try it. And then what happened after 3 months, I wrote this down because I wanted to actually talk about our real data. Yeah, within 2 to 3 months of the first, so between the first blog getting indexed to the first signups, it was 4 weeks.
Okay, wow.
So that was just a really trickle, like one here, one there, week by week. And then after 2 or 3 months from indexing to, it was 2 to 3 months after the first blog post got indexed to a significant jump in the signups. So now we're talking about maybe 5 per week, and then it just kept going up from there. So it was actually really quick. And like I said, when I first started hearing Nick talk about this stuff, I'm like, this guy's full of shit. This doesn't work. It's nothing I'd ever done. Had 2 years ago Julian heard about this, he would have punched me in the face. But it just worked, and it worked.
No, it does work. Honestly, well, Nick Jordan is smart, and he has really good case studies, and what he talks about is true. I think a big part of why people think it's not true, or like you said, it must be full of shit, is that we're wondering, how do you maintain quality? It's kind of like, oh, are you getting rid of quality? But a big part of what he says is also, all of those have to be the best thing that's on Google. The most comprehensive, most aligned with the user. So it's not getting rid of the quality thing. But so you came from, so I think Gorilla 76 does mostly demand gen and paid ads and those kind of things, right?
Actually, Gorilla got started as they have a long history as a marketing agency, and I wasn't there for the whole time, but I think they got started as like, we do it all kind of marketing agency, and then they really focused on search for a few years, and that's when I joined. When I joined is right when they made the transition into really more comprehensive programs for manufacturers.
Okay, so you had a little bit, just because the reason I'm asking is, jumping from that into, we're starting a brand new thing, don't know if we have product market fit yet, and we're going to invest publishing 16, that's like you said, 50 in the first 3 months, so that's about 16 a month. That's quite a project there. Yeah. Tell me, like, how did you set that up content operations wise? Obviously you were not by yourself because you can't do that. Who was on your team? What was the setup at the beginning?
We are 3 people in our marketing team. When I started, one of them was still an intern, and then she started full time, and then one more junior marketing manager. That was when I started. They're now definitely really more advanced in their seniority since that in that year. We've been through things. And our process was non-existent, honestly. We didn't have a process. When we first started creating some content and looking into, okay, how are we going to do this? We we would talk to like 3 writers and we'd hire one and we get a really mediocre blog post that was really expensive. So that's how we got started. I think maybe some words of encouragement to people who are listening who are thinking we can't do this. Well, we were very incapable when we got started, honestly.
I mean, you always got to start somewhere. Everybody's pretty incapable, especially if you're starting with such a big goal and project. What was the first or like the biggest wrong hypothesis you had, and what lesson did you learn from that?
Well, I think the biggest one was that I think we maybe didn't believe that so much when we got started anymore, but I think the biggest one was that we can't grow fast with SEO. I was like, there's no way.
That you can?
We cannot.
Oh.
That was honestly my thought in the beginning. I was like, I don't think this is going to work, but we should give this a try. And that was definitely proven wrong. The other one was already something you mentioned is, we cannot write that much content, 50 pieces, without it becoming complete garbage. And for the first 50, honestly, that hypothesis was kind of true. But that wasn't because the volume, is because we didn't have a good process. So that was why the quality didn't work. And then one last one might be interesting for some people is my personal hypothesis is more of a micro hypothesis, was that once people start coming to our blog, we're just going to slap CTAs all over them, and then they would sign up for the product. And that also, it turned out to be somewhat true, but what worked a lot better, which, looking back at it makes a lot of sense, is just talking about your product organically in the blog. And if you can't, it probably means that you're not writing about the right stuff, which is also a realization that we had. So, if we talked about team building activities for remote teams, we would just not, in the past, in the beginning, I would put some CTAs with our activities, and then obviously we should have just listed our activities in the listicle instead. And that's how most people sign up now. They come from the listicle, or they go from the listicle to our website, because they learn about, they ignore the CTA. It's not what they're there for. They want to read the content. So that was also an interesting learning.
Wait, so did you don't have CTAs on your SEO content?
No, we do, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to take it away. But we invested a lot of time in coming up with new designs and building a system to where we could incorporate CTAs into our blogs, designing it and then building it technically and making them nice and pretty, and then thinking about the copy. And we just way over invested in that stuff when we could have just talked about the product in the blog. Like, if I had to do it again, I would probably ignore CTAs in the beginning. Right. Maybe just put it like something on the side that is the same on every blog, but we really customize it for every blog, which is not smart.
Interesting. So you were just posting anything like that was not related to the product, and then plopping sign up for our product on here.
No, we were pretty strategic about it. So how we approached it is we really just bought the process from Nick and Gordana. So that's something I can recommend too, is something that I like to do is buying processes. The thing is, you need to find the processes that are worth buying. So there are a lot of people who sell their courses and stuff online. So a lot of times it's worth buying because it saves you a lot of trial and error. So in that case, it did. So we bought the process from Nick and Gordana, and we tweaked it to fit our needs. But our approach was we knew it was going to be about team building. So we basically built a huge keyword list about virtual team building or team building. We grouped those keywords with a grouping tool like Cluster AI. It's also from Nick and Gordana. I think I should need to get a deal with them for.
I know you need a commission.
I unfortunately don't have a deal, but I think I should get one. And then we looked at how the keywords were grouped together, because there was no way for team building. There was no way we needed to write a page for each keyword. It just doesn't make sense, especially for that, because there's so many variations. There's like 100 different variations people can look for just one thing in terms of team building. And so we grouped it. We picked the 50 pages as best as we could. We wanted it to be related to the product, as bottom funnel as possible. But we also needed to go up the funnel a little bit just to get the content volume, because we can't write 50 bottom funnel pieces, or we couldn't in our case.
Why not? It didn't exist?
I believed, and I still believe that I wanted to have a good mix. I wanted to have some high volume pages that maybe they're not the best fit for us, but I think they can support the bottom funnel pages, if that makes sense. And it was still the right people. I wanted to have a good mix of topics.
Yeah.
And we also didn't know, because our product was so early in the beginning, we really didn't know what was going to be bottom of funnel for us. And
right.
It would have been really risky to go for something like remote team building app, because I don't know if we would have had an app or remote team building Slack app or Slack apps for remote teams, something like that. That's very bottom of funnel. They're looking for an app or some kind of software. We didn't really know what the tool was going to look like. So going only bottom of funnel was going to be kind of a risky move.
Yeah, touche. So you went 50 pieces for the first 3 months. It was a bit of a disaster, it sounds like. What did you change? What did you change after that?
It wasn't a disaster, but it was really a struggle in terms of quality. So how we got started is we had a ton of documentation. That was a V2 of our process. V1 was what I just said about, talking to 3 writers, hiring 1. So V2 was we had a ton of documentation. So think like 20 pages on, I don't know, Coda or Notion, whatever you use, about every kind of thing that our writers should know, from grammar to style to how we talk about our product. So we had like 20 pages because we thought if they don't know our expectations, how can they write a piece that we want? Which is a good idea, but with the execution didn't work super well. And I can talk about how we changed it in a sec too. And then we hired our first 3 writers based on a big pool of applicants, but we had just an okay hiring process. And we had a generic brief for all articles. So because most of our articles were going to be about a similar topic, we said we'll just write one brief. It's going to be, this is about the structure of this article. This is about what we expect you to include and not include, and some of those generic things like that. We paid 10 cents per word, which is not good for freelancers. There were a ton of edits. Really, not the kind of edits that are like, oh, good piece, let's make it better. It's like the kind of edits that like, oh boy, really, this is really not good. It was really draining mentally for both Leah, our content manager, and me. So that was the first 50 pieces, and probably also a little beyond that. But yeah, if I did it again, I'd probably do it again the same way, honestly, because we just wanted to get started and learn along the way. And it was, maybe disaster isn't the right word. It was challenging in terms of content quality, but the shocking thing is a lot of those pieces still rank today and still drive a lot of signups for us. So it's like, it seems kind of silly to obsess so much about quality when you can also, obviously it matters for the long run and you want people to have a good experience reading your piece, but also there's some kind of minimum quality that you need to reach, and then it seems to rank also, which is kind of silly, but it did the job for the reader, I guess. But
you also heavily edited them.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're
heavily
not
edited
like
them.
Yeah.
But at some point we also had to say, all right, we can't rewrite the whole piece. We have to do the edits that we can, and then sometimes we uploaded pieces where I was like, I don't know. But yeah.
Oh man. So what did you change?
A few things. So now we have a very thoughtful and strict hiring process. I think that's one of the big things. So in the past, we might have been on the fence about someone and said, all right, we'll hire you anyways. We can probably train you. And maybe we just, maybe if we'll have another interview, they'll do better. Or maybe if they'll just write a few pieces, they'll figure it out. And that never happened. It never happened. The first gut feeling is now what we listen to. and we are a lot more thoughtful in our job description. So being really transparent about what we offer, from paid to what it's like working with us, how many pieces, what we're like, what we expect. So we can kind of filter out people there, and tell the people that aren't a good fit. We can just tell them from the get-go, hey, this is not going to work. This is what we're looking for. This is what you're looking for. There's not a match. And in the hiring process, I'm just a lot more strict. When I look at resumes and applications, I don't want to say I'm an ass. That's not right, because I think we are very respectful with applicants, but I'm quite strict. I look for really good sample articles. Like if somebody has written for Nectar HR, or that's we're kind of in the HR tech space. So if I see someone has written in the HR tech space for a reputable company and they've written a good piece, that's the person I want to hire. So if I see that, and then I basically just look at their portfolio and do a quick gut check if they and I'm quite strict in that. Sometimes we do a sample project with them, but lately we haven't been, because we can be quite sure with the people just based on their portfolio. So that's really important, because once we had a really good writing team, things got a lot easier. And then the other thing we changed is writing a detailed brief for each article. Seems kind of obvious now also, but it takes a little bit of time. But we really spend time doing the strategy work up front. It might take half an hour, sometimes more, to really sift through all the things that should go in the article and where to pay attention, what kind of angle we want to take. And we really, really try to give a lot of details about our expectations for the piece, because if we don't, how can we expect a writer to produce a piece that we like? It can't work. And also, it makes it a lot easier for the writer, because the writers were hating us before because of all the edits, and now we're in a place where that doesn't happen anymore. We have minimal edits most of the time, and the edits make it better. They don't try to save the piece. We paid double the price, so 20 cents per word, which I realize is still not at the top end. It seems to be kind of average, but our freelancers, for most of our freelancers, it meant a big raise, so that's nice, because we also raised our expectations. There's still some edits, but they're not the kind that make you want to delete the article. So that's where we're at now. So that's probably the biggest difference, is just the process. And now we can produce, if we want to, we can produce 5 pieces every week, and that's more than enough for us. And we can do it in a way that's not taxing on everyone. We can still do other things.
Yeah. So you work only with freelancers?
We work only with freelancers, yes. And then
you and your content manager are editing and uploading everything and managing all of the operations?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
What is just one last thing before we wrap up here, walk me through, so that's your hiring process. What's the actual process from brief to publication?
From brief to publication is, content manager, so Leah and I will write the brief, very detailed. I think we spent the most work there. So if I had one tip, is spend the most time there, really think about what you want out of a piece. You're going to have to do the work. It's going to be a little annoying, but it's really important. And then from there, we assign the piece to the writer. The writer has 1 week to send us the first draft. So we do everything on a Monday. So Monday, we assign the piece. Next Monday, we get the first draft. And by the next Monday, we expect to have the final edit.
Okay.
So after we get the first draft, we try to provide our edits within 2 to 3 days. Most of the time, 1 round of edits is good now. Sometimes there is a second round of edits. And so within 2 weeks, we'll go from assigning the brief to having the final piece. One thing worth mentioning, we have this on our calendar. So it has to happen. Like the briefs are always on a Friday, so we can assign them on a Monday. So we get together on a call on a Friday, and we just force ourselves to write the briefs on a Friday, so it happens. And then on Monday, we can assign the briefs, and then the writers have enough time to write it until next Monday. And it's all managed in Airtable, but you could also use other tools. It just works nicely for us. And then, Monday, we get the final articles. We might do some last tweaks. On Wednesday, we upload. We also have a standing meeting there. Always Wednesday morning, we're going to do our uploading together. So it's not so draining and for everyone because it's a little bit, it's not super fun. So, but we do it together, and then, yeah, I think that's our process. Then we go and index it manually and using the Google API. And I think that's it. That's the process.
Nice. Well, there you have it, folks. That's how Gomada went from 0 to 300 signups in under a year. I'm excited to see what's coming in this year for you.
Me too. And thanks for having me. By the way, I think one thing I do want to say, I think there's the story sounds fun and exciting, and it sounds like we had it all figured out or have it figured out now, but there was a lot of self-doubt on the way, and we didn't know what we were doing. We're not geniuses, so I just want to say if it feels like this might be a good fit, if you're listening and you're thinking, I'm not sure if I can do this, I'd be happy to help. Don't doubt yourself. Even we figured it out. And yes, you might produce some garbage. I think that's okay. Don't get judged by all the people on LinkedIn who think that there's a lot of bad content out there. That's okay. You might make some of it, but yeah, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. You have to just not be afraid of doing that, and you're going to get better. It's not the end goal to produce garbage, but you just got to figure out the way through.
It is definitely not the end goal.
Definitely not the end goal. All right, Julian, thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today.
Likewise. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'll see you next time. Farewell, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.